on, everyone. Congrats on this latest movie of yours.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I thought it was wonderful. Ian, I was gonna ask you, I thought your story was very profound and, hard hitting. Talk about how, maybe it's a cautionary tale, or how it might, how it communicates with the present moment we're all in. Anything that comes to mind, I'd love to hear more. I thought it was great.
I mean, I thought that religion was the next closest thing to politics, in the way that everyone holds their political views very firmly. Everyone holds their religious or non-religious affiliation very tightly. And so that seemed interesting and more like palatable as a setting for the whole thing. And yeah, I mean, the cautionary tale is, I think maybe like the question of, I don't know, whatever the opposite is, I believe that we human beings, we could talk ourselves into anything. So we hold these political, or for the sake of this film, religious views very earnestly. And that's, not really in question in the film, but we use that to do some pretty extreme things, And so I think the cautionary aspect of it for Simon and Sayre maybe is, is it worth it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And Kailey, speaking of your character, Sayre Kailey, has her fair share of eloquent arguments about, faith's place in our world, as Ian was just saying, and especially opposite Simon on the debate stage. And, in playing Sayre, I was curious, how did you feel about, at the end of the day, how did you feel about Sayre's perspectives about, all this? And were there certain moments in playing Sayre where maybe did you feel sort of taken aback by certain choices she makes, or maybe not?
Um, I do really identify a lot with what Sayre preaches.
Yeah.
Um, without disclosing my faith status, I do feel like Sarah's core message of like, please explain to me the evolutionary point of love. Please explain to me scientifically why love evolved, because it kind of seems a little counterproductive. I think that that is a really cool argument. And it's really difficult for someone like Simon, who has put a lot of things before his interest in love. It's hard for him to comprehend that question. But I also think that in watching the film, I was, and and this is a compliment to the writing. I think that I was kind of shocked at how patentedly they're not listening to each other, how they're just reading their prepared statements, and how that is what we see on every debate stage nowadays. And so the redemption of the backstage story, which Dee really talks about a lot when you hear her talk about this film, the redemption of being able to see behind the scenes, and that, especially that final scene where I think a Christian would see, Christian love and redemption being offered to this godless man. And a humanist would see it as, there might be something even deeper than faith, and that's our shared humanity. And so it was a real privilege to play her.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, it was a wonderful performance. And same with you, Patrick, playing Simon, also, playing a great debater on multiple occasions in this movie. And I was curious, getting into the mindset of Simon. I was curious if you nailed the part, and, I was curious if maybe did you watch any sort of renowned debaters, and getting ready to play the role, did you watch any sort of clips of past, the
Oh,
greats?
that's interesting. No, I didn't actually like do research like that, but I've been alive long enough to have watched a whole lot of debates,
Yeah.
and what I found interesting in the debate aspect of it is that these are basically giant monologues, like Shakespearean monologues, and
Right.
they've got their beginning, middle, and ends, and they take little tangents and they justify and they roll over with emotion, and sometimes they contradict themselves, which is really great. I think any good debater is somebody who manages to sort of throw everything at the wall and sort of come off at the end with like, well, and that's the way it is, leaving with an audience going like, well, I guess he's right, but then being able to use a stiletto to really, knock down the other person's argument as well. I had a lot of fun on stage debating with Kailey and her character of Sayre. It was really invigorating, and as much as we were not listening to one another, which I think is a really great observation, you can't help but listen because you can't wait to sort of get back and be like, you're wrong. It was very childlike, I think, in Simon's mind with it, my feeling. He liked being a peacock and being the well-dressed and the older guy, and he knows everything, and he's going to tolerate the rest of you imbeciles. So when blows would land and things would get under the skin, ultimately in the third debate, he resorts to the worst of tactics, right? Because he's lost.
Right.
And he's lost writ large as a character at that point anyways. So between being able to joust with Kailey on stage and then to be jousting with Deanna at home, I really had my hands full with ladies who were trying to push back against my infantilism, right? Yeah, infantilism, that would be it.
Yeah, that was great. And is it Deanna? I was going to say Diana. Deanna.
Thank you. Yes, it is. It's Deanna.
Beautiful.
You can call me D though.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, I think we're all rooting for Claire in the way we speak. And, she's very, I loved your performance. She's a wonderful character, and she's forgiving of Simon at times, and I think almost to a fault, at times. That's just me. And, I was curious in playing Claire, did you find yourself ever, I don't know, sort of combating Claire's instincts, reading the script, doing a certain scene where you're like, or maybe you were just, you were understanding of where Claire was and all that.
No, I mean, it's a great question. And I remember having conversations with Ian being like, something doesn't quite feel right. I feel like at this point, I mean, how far can a human be pushed, right? How elegant and poised can someone be before they explode? And I think that's also a question that the film presents or poses, because each of these characters are being pushed to their limit. I think about Sarah's character and how her home life, we don't get to see it, but things are not all that great. Her husband is a struggling musician who doesn't have a job. She's constantly on the road. He wants her to be pregnant. Eventually she does, and she gets that, and I think he gets a part-time job. But we're all capable of only so much. So I think that Claire and I are very different in a myriad of ways, but there is a through line where I can see and understand where Claire's coming from. She's far more educated than I am, first and foremost. Like, whoa, this woman is incredibly bright. And
but you're hotter than she is.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so the connection was there, but it was also, our job is not to judge the character, right? Our job is to really step into that character's life, and the work ultimately is to hopefully bridge that, so you no longer, at least from the audience perspective, you no longer are yourself. You are fully thrown into this other person's life, and it's really, when it can happen and coalesce, it's such a wonderful experience to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I'll just throw in it quickly. Like, Dee was really great about holding my feet to the fire in the ways she just explained, but like on set where she was, I think the current of anger she wanted to make sure was at least there in intervals. And so credit to our editor, Robert Schafer, for just extracting so many amazing nonverbal moments, breaths between these marathon speeches that we have. just my fault, right? That all three of these actors do. But we get some of those escape hatches of Claire not just being sort of educated and having this poise and this sort of regal quality, but firing off some real daggers, you know. And I think that helps us stay with them until we get that real, for me, wonderful payoff of, I think, her as the, you know, the voice of the audience finally saying,
She's the adult. She's the adult in the room.
finally in the bedroom scene, she gets to say what we've all been, you know, feeling more or less, hopefully. But I will say, to your question, yeah, Dee was great about anger is a human emotion. There has to be, for how extreme Simon's going, intervals of that. And then, you know, in other scenes like the dinner, we would kind of fight for the middle ground where it's like, yes, there's anger because you're terrified, you know, this person's relapsing into their alcoholism, but you also do seminars yourself and you're kind of on stage because you're trapped across from this person you don't know at dinner. If it were just you. So we kind of, I think it's collaboration. We found that tension, but Dee was really, really good at holding me to that, of not just doing the, you know, the sort of nodding 1990s sitcom wife who just lets the guy kind of go. But this, yeah, we wanted to have fully fleshed human beings with their feet on the ground, and that would include anger. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that bedroom scene is, yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are going to see that and fist pump for Claire there. So that's great. And Patrick, I also wanted to mention I'm a huge Better Call Saul fan. I tell people it's better than Breaking Bad, and I thought your performance as Howard was wonderful. And I was just had to ask, if you don't mind, I was curious if you know, there's a lot of conversation as to whether you know, Howard is essentially a good person, to the extent that anyone's a good person. And, you know, having played that arc and looking back, I was just curious what you think about that. And, you know,
Oh yeah, yeah. I think without a doubt. I think you can make a quick case over 6 seasons of that show that Howard's the only one who's actually constant in his character and what he's trying to do, which is basically just maintain a law firm. It's those crazy McGill brothers and other characters that sort of, you know, send them in a spiral, you know, which is unfortunate. But I think also he shares a lot with Simon in the same idea that, you know, when you talk from the outside in about things, it's easy to see like, oh, Simon is this and Simon is that. But I certainly didn't think he was like that. I think Simon is merely trying to get what he wants, and he just has really bad tools about knowing how to do it. The good thing is the hammers that he's using the whole way through the piece, you know, get broken, and he's left with nothing. Those tools no longer work for him. So what's he going to do at that point? Which is why I love the final scene of The Way We Speak, you know, because there's a moment of, where's he going to go from here? It feels like he's gotten to a point. It feels like he's gotten to a Rubicon of some sorts. But I also love the fact that we don't know how much he's going to embrace that, or how much Sarah's going to embrace it. But we see two people who were warriors, who have laid down their shields and have a moment of humanity with one another. And I think that's a great way for the audience to leave, you know, for their own decisions to be made about that.
yeah, yeah, I love the way it ended. I thought that scene, I mean, that last scene really sticks with you. No spoilers, but yeah, that was great. And whoever wants to jump in, Kailey, Patrick, or whoever, you know, out of the three debates, which one was your favorite, you know, kind of looking back on it? If you had to choose. I mean,
oh, I liked them all. I will say that on a practical level, on a behind the scenes kind of level, I was totally out of my skull. It was debate number 2. I don't know, but it was a day where here I'm going to blame it on lunch. I had way too much lunch, and I know that I'm not a good actor with a full stomach. And all the words that were in my head went whoop right out of my brain. And so we're up there after lunch trying to do close-ups of me, and I can't put those words together for the life of me. And I was really charming, I'm sure, saying stuff like, you know, all that wonderful sort of thing. And I want to thank Ian for, you know, whether he was lying or not, he was just trying to make his day. He's like, no, it's okay. We got it. We've got that. Let's just move on to the next part.
Charming. You were very charming.
I don't know about that. And then Kailey, God bless her, she's like, would you like to run lines? I'm like, no, I don't want to run lines.
That's not true.
It felt a little bit like that. That's what it was like on the play inside of my head. Yes.
I'm happy to report to a Better Call Saul fan that Patrick Fabian is an absolute dream to work with, even at his self-rated worst moments.
Thank you.
Will, I'm with you. Huge Better Call Saul nerd over here, and yeah, it was season 6 when I screamed on the couch, and 6 months later, Patrick and I were working together. So my first feature as writer director, I got to have that nice little like wow, it's his iconic voice in the room, and I'm seeing him out of the corner of my eye on the monitor, and this is already like something I don't want to watch. It was fun. I got to be, I don't feel like a starstruck person, but I got a little bit of that because he's so good in a show that I agree with you is better than Breaking Bad.
Yeah, it's so great. And I also wanted to, Patrick, it seems like you've guest starred in an episode of like every big TV show from the past 25 years.
I have been passed around town, as we like to say. Yes.
I didn't say that. Your words. But yeah, you've been in so many things, and I'm sure so many of them are memorable, but out of all of them, I mean, was there one that comes to mind that, I don't know, really sticks out to you?
Well, I have to be honest with my response. I've been asked that question before, and the first thing that comes to my mind, and which you have to answer, is Xena, the warrior princess, played by Lucy Lawless. It was a wonderful gig. I got flown down to New Zealand. I got to wear leather chaps, a pirate shirt. I beat up the bad guys, and I kissed the girl. And as my dad questioned me, he said, "They paid you for that?" Yes, they did. So it wasn't curing cancer, but it sure was fun. So there you go, Xena, the warrior princess.
That's great. That's like, I mean, you can't beat that. I mean, I would just retire after that. So. Well, great. Well, thank you, everyone. That's all the time I have, but it was great to meet all of you, and congratulations. I can't wait for everyone else to see this. It was wonderful. So thank you for taking the time to chat with me.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate it.